Alrighty, Roo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hello to another, and welcome to another episode of the lovely Angry Zachman channel. Am I angry today? Not per se. In fact, I'm actually quite baffled and ecstatic in a very good way. What are we dealing with today? Well, as you can see, there's already a good amount of shit going on here, but, you know, I'm gonna put my phone down right here in the corner. Woohoo, hello. I think you can see here. But, so, I'm always torn, you know, between, filming and doing shit, because obviously there's a very fine line between you either do a whole bunch of shit and then you have a whole bunch of content to film, or you spend a whole bunch of time filming, but then sooner or later, you're not going to have content to film. Or you just want people to mix the two, if you got both. And I've definitely always been more of the doer. So, been doing a whole lot of shit for a whole lot of years without filming it, sadly. And I do kind of regret it now, because damn, I've done some cool shit. But that's why that's changed now, and, you know, better late than never, right? But the point is, today I figured I'd show y'all, mostly because there's really not that many videos on the internet out there of this anyway. So maybe this will be an educational tutorial for somebody. And, for others of y'all, hopefully entertainment. But here we've got the legendary, the man, the myth, the legend, as they call it, Bruno Sacco's best work, the R129 SL500 Mercedes-Benz. And this right here is the loveliest engine that they, well, okay, fine. Second loveliest engine that they ever came with, aside from the V12. This is the M119 still Mercedes pre-Chrysler merger V8. Now this is the later version, 119.982, basically meaning it's electronic everything, fuel injection and ignition. There's the coil packs up there. So this thing is a beauty, and they're marvelous engines. Now what are we doing on this particular engine? Well, let me get around this camera stand here. It all started out very innocently, if you will. As an issue on this side right here, passenger side, cylinder head, very loud ticking. Now with these cars, I'm like, this is a textbook. I already know what this is. These things suffer, or, well, suffer, I guess is the correct word, or at least the word we'll use. These things, I'm gonna start taking crap off here so I can start showing y'all. These little geezers love to suffer from valve tick and all sorts of other, well, mostly valve tick, valve train issues. The big one, obviously, being this whole thing right here. As y'all can see, this is what the passenger side looks like. Cylinder head, dual overhead cam, V8 baby. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. V8. And this is a camshaft locking tool. We'll get into that later. But the point is, these dumbass little oiler tubes, they actually basically distribute oil from intake to exhaust camshafts and all other whereabouts of the engine. And is that a fucking, okay, that's dirt. And these things are fucking plastic with little holes, well, that are capped on the bottom, because obviously when they create these, they got to drill a hole through the middle somehow, and they have to cap the hole. So that's basically what those things are. And if you look back here, well, you definitely can't see, but back there, I'll show y'all later when I get these bitches off. But back there, one of those plugs popped out, and of course, oil was not getting to that lifter, and they're hydraulic lifters, so it always starts causing a very, very loud ticking sound, and this and that. And how do you know that that's the case? You take a piece of wood, you know, a Home Depot pencil, whatever the fuck, and obviously you're gonna have to put a big old 27 millimeter socket right there on the crank. Can you even see that? Yeah, right there on the crank, and big old ratchet, which is what I got this whole flex head 1/2 inch for. And you're gonna turn the motor. There's a whole thing when it comes to timing. You're gonna put it on. Fuck it, I'll show y'all. Actions speak louder than words. You're gonna put it on 45 degrees, which I've marked with a paint pen, because it's really hard to see for me and the camera at this point, because this thing's old and dirty, as you can tell. You mark it 45 degrees, and then you should be able to actually lock camshaft, but we'll get more into that in a second. But when you do that, you'll have certain, you know, valves that are sticking up, certain valves that are not, and all that fun jazz. And then, essentially speaking, what you do, you're gonna have to rotate the engine. Like, this is just to get started. I like to reference this as the starting position, and you'll have certain cam lobes that point up, and you're basically gonna take a piece of wood, because you really don't wanna scratch the actual lifters or the camshaft. And you're gonna try to press down on the lifters. And if those bitches are rock solid, you know they're good. Now, if you go to this side here, you really won't be able to tell too much either. And I can't move this engine right now to show you all exactly. because it's already locked and timed and everything. Because I'm like 5 steps ahead of this. But this lifter here and that lifter here, as in right where the cylinder little oiler tube went to shit, they popped out, and you'll be able to physically feel and push that lifter down. They never move too much unless you have like crazy sort of engine damage, who knows what. But they're gonna move down a little bit, and the point is, if they move down at all, as in if you can push them down any amount, that's bad. That lifter's either bad, or honestly, these old steel lifters and everything being metal here, like, they're pretty easy to salvage. In fact, a lot of times they never do get damaged. You just got to pull them apart and rebuild them, which I might do a whole episode on that. How do you rebuild Mercedes lifters? Because that's a thing too that I don't think many people know. You can replace them though, and to be honest, if your car's got high mileage and it's old, like, it's not a dumb idea to just replace it anyway. Because, you know, there's little springs in there that lose tension, this and that. Like, it's not the dumbest thing, and it's not expensive either. It's like, fuck, man, I don't even think I paid 50 bucks. So that's basically that. And that's what the car initially came in. Then I was telling the customer that, like, hey man, first of all, these damn bitches got to be addressed. So what do we do to do that, to address that? Technically speaking, there are aftermarket alternatives, which are always an option. And sometimes it might even be the preferred option if you prefer a little bit of bling. But Mercedes in the earlier models, actually, I want to say between, 90 and 93 or 92, they actually had aluminum oiler tubes. See that shit right there? 119-187-0087. That right there is the original part number for these little things. And they are actually numbered if you look. So they do kind of have to go in a certain order, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down through 8. Hold on, do I still remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? There we go. Yes, so, but the point is that is the part number, blah, blah, blah. That's how they go. Definitely either install a used set of these with, oh shit, oh my god, don't fall. Stop. Fuck you. With a new set of O-rings, definitely gonna wanna do that. Or just buy the aftermarket aluminum ones. There's a company called Rasch and Spiegel, I believe is how it's officially pronounced. They make a red kit, anodized aluminum red, if you want pimp, although you'll never see this, it's under the valve covers. But still, you know, sometimes, and I'm kind of one of these guys, I'm guilty of it, you'll know that deep down inside, underneath that air box and the valve cover, you've got red, shiny aluminum cam oiler tubes. If you care about that shit, get it. But those things like 40 bucks each, and you're gonna need 16 of them, so be prepared for that. This is why I do think that the OEM Mercedes ones, especially used on eBay, because I mean it's a piece of aluminum, so as long as you replace the O-rings, it's fine. Or even new is not a bad idea. So that, and then, you know, I was like, hey man, we're gonna be pulling half of this cylinder head apart, half the timing apart, all that crap. We might as well, to be honest, do your guides. You know, worst case, we're gonna have to do your chain. I hope not, because that's a bit of a bitch job, especially if you're actually feeding it through and not just removing the whole front end of the motor, which is never really the option. Everybody feeds it through. It's just feeding it through kind of sucks. I get nervous every time, because if it slips one tooth, you kind of got to start the whole procedure over, and timing gets fucked, and it's really hard to resynchronize. But yeah, so that's what it came in for. And yeah, then I was talking to the client. That's a very good return client of mine, and I was just telling him the situation, and he himself was like, fuck it, let's do it all. I want this car to be 100% ready. I love this car, you know, all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, I agree with you. Let's sink the boat if we're gonna sink it, right? You can tell it's been maintained, if y'all haven't noticed. I mean, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room now, finally, but do y'all see this shit right here? This is basically a brand new cylinder head. I mean, it's actually not, but at least I don't think it is. But this basically looks brand new. This is a pristine and prime example of what change your fucking oil means. If you change oil religiously, which this guy definitely did, because that's like the one thing that there was actual history of, like in the Carfax and everything, that this guy had very regular oil changes. So this is what happens when you change oil, everything's gonna look like this. This thing has 150,000 miles. And it looks like that. As if you couldn't tell by the rest of the car that it's not that new. 150,000, bro. Maintenance matters. Maintenance is key. Honestly, dare I say, maintenance is the only thing that matters. So, you may be asking, how did I, you know, get the car down here to this point? And, well, that's what I really figured I'd kind of show y'all. This is a few steps ahead, like I said. But to be honest, it's pretty damn easy. It looks very complicated and who the hell knows what. But again, like I was showing y'all earlier on that crank, you time it 45 degrees. Then you can either use drill bits, M6 bolts, whatever the hell you want. I have the actual, you know, tools and stuff as in the official tools, because we got to look pimp up in here. And also it's just better because like this thing is not gonna slightly fall out and fall down in the cylinder head. If you've got a little bolt sitting there and you hit it, or if it just slides out because everything's covered in oil and it falls down the head, you're fucked. This is not gonna fall down. So these things are pretty smart, to be honest. You lock in the camshafts. Now here's the real kicker to everything. And this is just proof, this is just more proof that this motor is fucking pristine. So as y'all can see right here, well, I don't think you can exactly see, so I'm gonna bring y'all in. Check this out right here. Driver's side looks exactly the same. Now this one, ironically, you can see right there, does have those aluminum oiler tubes, so that's funny. But they're the Euro parts ones. I don't like Euro parts, to be honest. I mean, they're cheap and they make stuff, but like, there's a reason why they're cheap. So yeah, we're definitely still gonna replace those with the OEM Mercedes ones, because fuck that. But the point is, you got that right. Crankshaft 45 degrees before top dead center. Exhaust and intake camshaft on passenger side, locked and pinned in place. As you can see, there's holes here in the bridges, and then you slide the pins into holes right there in the actual camshaft. Now there's bigger holes and smaller holes, but the hole you're looking for is hopefully the one closest to your 45 degrees. You know, if you're at 45 degrees and this thing's like, and there's no hole in sight, like either a little bit ahead or in front or whatever, you kind of got problems. This car had all 4 pins line up exactly, well, like fucking 1 degree off from 45 degrees. That's insane. This does not happen. Why? Because with time, the timing chain, pun intended, stretches. And basically, usually, if you got 150,000 miles and you didn't do like crazy levels of maintenance, or I don't know, just crazy levels of working or whatever, you're definitely gonna have some timing chain stretch. If it's like super fucked, you can only get the one camshaft exhaust side passenger in, as in the pin. That's it. Nothing else will go in, because that's where the tensioner is and all that stuff. So usually that one's the one to line up, and then nothing else comes in. If you get like, you know, halfway there, 2, maybe 3 will line up. But if you're basically brand new chain or something, or like ridiculous maintenance levels, I suppose, you'll get all 4 to line up. Now, can we verify that this chain was not replaced? No, I can't. There's no records of that being done, but in general, this car didn't really have too many records, which was also part of the reason why it was so damn cheap. But, I mean, again, looking at it and stuff, like, it definitely has wear. It's not, like, new. You can see the wear on the rollers there. You can, well, not really see. It's kind of hard to see, but in theory, you can see the wear on the teeth, you know? Oh, shit, turn on. So, like, it don't look new. You know, and I mean, it's not anything crazy. There's really no stretch. I still have the tensioner inside. It's not been pulled out yet. I'm basically about to start actually taking the whole motor apart, but I figured if I'm going to start the series, I'm going to start it here before I get everything apart. So yeah, so that's that. Who really knows if it was done or if it wasn't done, but it's you know, it's here, we're there. You know, the chain looks damn pristine, man. And I have yet to take off these top guides. These are often the telltale indicator if these things are super brittle when you try to remove them. These did not break. That may mean that they're original or very, very old. Now, if you can actually remove them without everything breaking and shattering, because it's fucking plastic, they're probably replaced somewhat recently-ish. So about to take those off, and then we can really start getting to, you know, to when the whole system was done, and at least any potential theories. So that's that. Point being, how did I actually get here? There's different variations of these engines. So there's gonna be a slight variance, in processes here, but for the most part, it's honestly all pretty much the same. As you can see on this motor, again, this is later generation, everything electronic, ignition and fuel. So it's gonna be a little bit different. If you got distributors, you wanna have distributors here on the exhausts. You kind of just have to remove those, remove everything, and then once you get to the bare cam seal, you'll be able to remove the plates that are here. There's just a couple of bolts and whatnot. The older cars don't have this stupid ass smog pump, so you don't even have to undo the bolt there. But in theory, you may have to remove this, or at least they say you have to remove this to get to that one bolt, but I have found that you don't. First of all, put down a big old trash bag in case there's any oil leakage, because there will be, in the trunk, and then put the parts in there. That way they're organized with the car. I don't have too much space around the garage and shop taken up, and also they're pretty safe from the environment. If you close this thing, there's a reason why rainwater don't get in the trunks anyway. So What the fuck was I gonna show y'all? Right. You've got, you've got these whole big old bolts. Aha, there's the bastard. That's the one bolt on a swivel ball end socket that I used to get out. Everything else is pretty standard, I think 6 mil. Also, you do not have to actually remove the camshaft adjusters. You can pretty much just leave them on and take off the whole front timing covers from both sides. Now that side, you're gonna have to remove that power steering pump, which I'm about to show y'all. So there's really no need for swivel sockets on that side. So that's basically passenger side right here. That's how you remove that thing. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy to be honest. You're gonna have to remove the smog pump too, if you've got one. If you got a mechanical drive with a belt, you gotta just loosen the belt tensioners here. You gotta just basically twist it. Now the way I like to do it is this thing, which is actually a Harbor Freight special. There's not many Harbor Freight tools I use. I usually try to stick with something at least a little higher end. Capri, Astro. If I can get into like Mac and Mac tools, yes, obviously, y'all know I'm a diehard. Where the fuck are they? Oh shit. I'm a diehard Milwaukee guy. I have pretty much all of the automotive essential Milwaukee impacts, this, that, right angles, not. I even have the not so useful, but useful when you need it, right angle impact. Anyway, so yeah, you use this little geezer and you can get in very closely. This thing is also very useful for removing radiator fans. Now on 129s, you really don't have to do it. As you can see, there's good enough room. On 124s and stuff, you do. There's not enough room. You're gonna have to remove it. But the pump is just 2 bolts kind of angled to get to from underneath the car, and then you can kind of drop it because your tensioner is right there. So that's also a very critical part. Now, in terms of driver's side, you're gonna have some sort of variation of a power steering pump. Now again, this is the later model, so there is no distributors, nothing. There's just this pump that sits bolted right here to the block. If you have the older style pump that sits more here with the cylindrical reservoir, if I'm not mistaken correctly, drain the reservoir, some bolts on the bottom, you can pop it off, and then I think you can leave it right here without removing it from the block, because the chainrail guide pins are gonna be right here. So it's not the end of the world to get to, and then for those, it's gonna be right here, which I actually do think you have to remove it to get to those. I kind of take that shit back, but it's pretty easy. Now, there's 2 schools to do it. One to says, we're just remove the damn pump, which you have to access from underneath the car, from the back over there. It kind of sucks, because you can see where the bolts are, over there, and then I think there's also, yeah, there's some bolts up front too, which you're gonna have to remove the pulley for. It's a whole thing. As you can see here, I didn't even drop the pulley, bro. We just dropped the belt down, which we're gonna be replacing anyway, because that thing's old. And yeah, drop the belt, and then I removed the whole bracket, which is what I think most people tend to do, and at least personally on these later models, I would say it's very, very easy. I forgot, honestly, if memory serves me right on the older models, if it's any easier to do bracket versus pump without bracket. But either way, it's going to be like 3 or 4 bolts. It's just a matter of how much shit is going to be to get to. 1 here, 2 from the back, you know, here and here. Pretty easy. Pop that shit off. Pop this timing cover off. You're done. It's really that simple, to be honest with y'all. You know, obviously valve covers and airbox. I mean, I'm realizing I just said that now, but I thought that was self-explanatory. You're gonna have to disconnect this brake booster hose here and the fuel line that goes down there. And again, this is pretty much specific to your electronic LH, I think it is, Bosch fueling and ignition system. Now, if you've got the later KE Jetronics, it's still gonna be similar, because I know you still got fuel lines going in here, but I think you have 2, a return and a feed. You're gonna have to just disconnect both at the Jetronic connection. So, you know, whatever little crap's in the way, you're gonna have to disconnect, and look for easy disconnect points. Don't try to take shit off of, you know, one-way valves or through fucking firewalls and boards and stuff. Like, don't do that crap, because that shit's gonna break, especially on old cars. These things, well, they can still break, but much less likely. So yeah, you're gonna remove that stuff, and then basically you're at this point. So now comes the real fun part. Now is when we start taking off these dumbass top guides. I'm gonna do that shit first, just because I want to see how brittle they are, I suppose, or not brittle, who knows. And then that'll kind of give me an indication of what I'm actually working with here in terms of like all the guides down there, because none of them actually broke. There's not like a ridiculous knock or rattle coming. It was just a slight tick. So far just the lifters are the culprit. But it's not to say that it's not going to happen soon, especially with this much mileage. As much as the car's been hella well maintained in terms of oil changes, you know, other stuff has not. And it definitely is a Florida car. Look at all the damn oxidation everywhere. It's crazy. But yeah, so it's pretty easy. I'm I'm gonna be back in a second with the magic of YouTube, and I'll show y'all the next stage, you know, or I'll probably jump a few stages and then update y'all just because it's easier for me to film that way than to film everything and then have to edit everything. I got too much shit to do, man. I gotta get shit done, and then I still got, you know, my usual computer work and whatnot, so we gotta get shit going, baby. You know, cash flow and turnaround time is king, as my mentor always told me.